Welcome to Fuki Cafe. I'm Ivy Cohn, and my guest today is Renette Senum, joining me here at the studios of NCTV in Nevada County, California. Renette, welcome.
Thank you, Ivy. I appreciate it.
Well, we've gathered here today for a very important topic, and that is the importance of independent media. And this past week, we've had an example of what it's like to have one of our star journalists yanked out from underneath of us.
That's right. Yeah, I think Nevada County in general appreciated independent voice more this week now than ever. And as you were saying, that was through the possible loss of Pascal Fossholler, who was the founder of Ubinet. And Ubinet is an online source of news and media and journalism and transparency and everything from local media outlet for your press releases to where is that forest fire, where is that smoke coming from in the hills.
Yes, her up to the minute fire news is extremely valuable here in this area. But she does cover and bring very current, constant community-related information and beyond.
Right.
She's a real journalist.
She's a real journalist. Yeah, she asks hard questions. She makes enemies.
Yes, and she shows up at all of the government meetings.
Yeah, she really does.
Yes. So this past week, under really bizarre circumstances, she was arrested.
That's correct. She was doing a California stop at a stop sign that most people just kind of roll through. We even had a local videographer, Douglas Keachie, actually videotape cars passing after her arrest. And for about 15, 20 cars, and all but one rolled through, so it's quite common. Yes. And interestingly enough, the story with Pascal is that she's from Luxembourg. She's been in America for 15 years. She fell in love with another woman. Unfortunately, her partner, Susan, and she could never marry until this year. It was not legally recognized.
Which was an absolutely wonderful event.
It was fabulous. So there's that bit of a very important piece of backstory. So ultimately, when she got pulled over, she did make the mistake of giving her wife's name because she became scared, and understandably. And unfortunately, by doing that and lying to the CHP officer, that is a felony. And once this felony happens, it triggers ICE, which is the Immigration Customs Enforcement, to do a background check on the individual. And they did, and they found out, of course, she was here illegally. And then what happened basically was she was swept up in a matter of just a couple days. ICE came, and in spite of a
incredible
government shutdown,
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, they moved quite expeditiously. And as soon as the community got wind of this, it was explosive on social media.
And they caught wind of it very, very rapidly.
Yes, and within hours there was a Let's Support Pascal website that now today, we're talking less than a week later, has over 1,200 likes, a flurry of discussions. From what I was able to gather, we were all out there trying to study immigration law quickly. What does this mean? Where is she going? What are her rights? What aren't her rights? And a lot of us were very suspicious. We thought this was interesting that one of the very few real independent media sources and journalists that we have has now been, taken away, and we're possibly losing this individual. And then, of course, on Facebook, we all replaced our own little faces with, support Pascal and free Pascal.
Which I know we've already taken one quick look, but one of the social media functions was this graphic Free Pascal, which we might, take a look at quickly again. So that rallying using the social media was almost...
It was instantaneous.
Yes.
It was really, it was way before the press, and the press, actually, regular press couldn't keep up to it, in all honesty. And what people were doing is, because there was so little information besides, she's been arrested and it looks like she might be deported, everybody was trying to figure out, well, where is she? Does she have a team? Is she being supportive? And then once word got to us that no, she has a legal team, her wife Susan is there. She has close, network of friends who are like her team.
Right.
And then she has the outer circle, which is the community. And basically, once word was given that, okay, we need you to absolutely bombard Senator Boxer and Feinstein's offices, even though the government is shut down.
Right.
We did, through a series of phone calls, several of us, track down a live person in Oakland, amazingly.
Wow.
And that's the number. That's the one I stumbled upon, and I couldn't believe, that they hadn't been contacted yet, and that somebody was there. And then that was a number that many of us bombarded. And ultimately over, that was on a Friday, the phone calls, emails, faxes, and petitions, online petitions where they got hundreds of signatures. I think it was by Monday that we got word from the team that Boxer's office and Finance Center saying, stop the emails, the fax. We heard you.
Totally overwhelmed them.
For little tiny,
when I heard that, when I saw that there had been a call to please back off, we've achieved our goal, you hardly ever get that kind of a message, which is just, it was such a testimony to this community in particular.
Yeah.
Totally rising to the occasion.
There's, and I think a lot of us had a lot of dichotomy of emotions, because here I'm so proud of our town and our community going, wow, look how we rallied.
Yeah.
And yet I think, okay, how many Pascals are there out there who don't have our town?
Right.
And who've gotten sucked into the system and they don't speak the language, they're not from here, they don't have the resources. We are a community of activists. We actually know how to motivate and unite around something. We've done it with Save the Parks. We've done this before. We've done this with 49er Fire, which is what really kind of jump-started Ubinet.
Exactly.
So we know how to do this, but I'm like, we're really unusual. And it just made my heart sink when I realized, wow, because, here's one person leaving our town and would just wreak havoc on us. And I'm thinking, how many families, how many networks, how many, businesses, how many, communities has it wreaked havoc on if they don't have what we have, which is a town of activists.
Right, and a way to quickly respond. Get the people, get the resources, get the word out. And yes, there are many people who have suffered and not had the good outcome that we have had, because Pascal is, in fact, at home.
Yeah.
And
so she got released yesterday, was to be in court in San Francisco. I guess they got her up 3 in the morning to appear there. I don't know any more details than that. We're still waiting to hear all the details. And supposedly Feinstein and or Boxer were going to have representatives there. I don't know if that was the case or not. And we're waiting to hear all this. But just got wind, boom, she's on her way home, and we, we were just so thrilled.
Yes.
And it's great, too, because, I know Ubinet has been struggling. People don't realize that Pascal's quite passionate about this, and she does this whether she gets paid or not. And I know that Ubinet has been struggling, and there's been a few calls out on social media saying, hey, could you please put some money towards your local independent news source?
Yes, and support for that is, even though this has been a very difficult situation this past week, it has raised the community awareness even to a higher bar.
And the level of appreciation is so much deeper.
And just the notion that we might lose this. It was just like, ah!
Well, the few days that she was, locked away, incidences would happen, like an RV catches on fire on Highway 49, or there's some lightning things sparking over here. People were like, see, that's what Pascal would be covering.
So hopefully this will really inspire people to cough up with the dollars that will allow her to do this ongoingly without that sense of constant stress and struggle, because we know what that feels like.
That's right.
And she is doing something that literally nobody else in this community is doing in that way.
That's right.
We have a stunning local community radio station here, which is...
We have NCTV.
We have NCTV. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
But she's
later
out there
on
the beach.
But
she's out there.
She's literally physically out there with those cameras around her neck,
Government
taking
meetings.
notes. Yes, incredibly valuable asset.
So one of the things that we were hitting upon, too, there's several different things that I was kind of stressing on Facebook and talking to people, and that is, people saying, well, she's a criminal. It's like, well, there's a couple things. One is, this is what inequality looks like. This is the face of inequality, in that here's a woman who was in love with another woman, and they were not seen as equals. Marriage was not recognized by the state, and this is what inequality looks like. This is how it manifests in a terrible way. That caught all of us off guard, and it was not until this year that marriage was finally recognized in the state of California officially. That is, within July, Susan and Pascal did marry, and they were taking those steps. And granted, just because you marry doesn't mean you've got your green card. It's like around $10,000.
Right. There's quite a process. So let me just back up
process.
just for a moment so that I could clarify for our listening audience out there. That inequality factor, the fact that they were not able to marry, that there was a deep personal commitment in that relationship, that caused Pascal to decide
to basically become an outlaw.
To basically become an outlaw in order to be in this committed and loving relationship of, 15 years. And so that basic underlying inequality factor.
This is how it manifests.
This is how it manifests.
That's right. Right. Yeah, right. And of course, there really wasn't much of a grace period. And one of the things that we were saying to our elected officials when we were making the calls was, please, now that their marriage is legally recognized, allow them to complete the immigration process.
Which was absolutely, I mean, the fact that that has occurred is mind-blowing, and also encourages us that there are other arenas that need our attention, that by a concerted effort, we can achieve some of these changes and addressing these issues.
Right.
I mean, this is...
Well, this is, I mean, the thing that was amazing about it is to see how when a community comes together on one page, united, and with only a couple talking points, they're like, this is what we want, boom and boom, and we just hammer it, you know? We go to our elected officials and we hammer them. We're a tiny little town, but they got hammered.
They did?
And, oh, yeah, I called several times each day.
Oh, Renee, I wouldn't expect anything less from you, my dear.
And so, but the fact that we have that kind of power and persuasion, I couldn't help but thinking, okay, that's when we are in crisis. That's when we are having to react to our circumstances. Now, what would happen if we could find a common denominator, whether it be NSA surveillance, the NDAA, the Patriot Act, Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is extraordinarily dangerous? What if we were to take the same tactic where we have one or two talking points, we know exactly what we want, and we go right to our elected officials, and we just keep giving it to them until they say, okay, we hear you, we're going to do something.
This incident with Pascal has actually given us a model.
It has.
That we can use for some of these many other issues.
Yeah. And this is the other thing is that, you know, it's hard to see these decisions being made in Washington, how they're going to come and impact us in our daily lives. It's really hard to see that. And here was a perfect example of marriage inequality, of prejudice against the homosexual, you know, a part of our society, of the immigration process, the heartlessness of it, the speed of it. And you know, all these different things are decided in Washington. We got to see it had a face.
Yes.
For the first time. This particular part, which was like immigration and marriage equality and so on, it actually had a face and became the face of Pascal. And so, but it would be really lovely for us to be able to be more proactive and not wait for that crisis. I think one of the dangers with Fukushima is that we can't see the radiation. We can't see it.
That is one of the
we
issues.
could not see marriage inequality until we saw what was going on with Pascal. We couldn't see immigration reform tanking. I mean, it's terrible until we saw what happened with Pascal. The danger with Fukushima is we can't see the radiation.
Right, and it does have some outplanes that we can see, but they're very tiny, very
and
minuscule,
really hard to pinpoint.
And really hard to pinpoint.
Yeah.
And of course, this show was named after Fukushima.
That's right.
Because it is now the constant backdrop.
Yes. Yeah.
To everything else that's going on.
Yeah. Anytime I go about my day, I'm always thinking, this is great, I'm doing that, awesome. We still have Fukushima.
Yeah.
And it's always this dark cloud, but we have Fukushima.
Yeah. It's
that
constant awareness now
that
we have this possibly, you know, extinction level.
It's an extinction level event. Possibly. I mean, we already might be there. We're just going to watch it roll out at this point in time. But basically, that is what we're dealing with.
Right.
And
but even within the context, and I don't want to get too far off of our independent media track here, but you know, even within the context of, you know, the long term, I mean, hundreds of thousands of years, if not longer, that radiation issues are going to be happening here. Right. There are things that we can do right now. Right. It's not like, oh well, we're done. You know, we're toast.
That's right.
Although I have been known to say that we, you know, could all be dead by Christmas.
Yeah.
That's actually true. However, you know, the fact that the Japanese government and TEPCO have now engaged some international input is a huge step in the right direction.
Most of this has been through independent media. Bloggers, people from within Japan reporting out on Facebook. I have friends in Japan who are Japanese, and I get direct reports from them. I'm not getting from anybody else. So there's again, that's an independent media source that is just so key. And you know, we see the same thing, you know, with NCTV as well. It's like we can't use it, we can't lose this independent media source. And so with Ubinet, there's a couple things before we get off track there. is that she still has, Pascal still has a legal defense fund.
Yes.
And that's really important. I know they've already raised over $4,000, but easily she'll have a good $20,000 bill easily.
Absolutely.
So she needs funds there. Okay, once we get done with the legal defense fund, Ubinet.com. We now realize how valuable she is, and we have to keep her afloat.
Yes, we do.
Even if it's just $5 a month, this is...
Absolutely, absolutely. And keeping that in front of the public,
Reminding.
And, the major expenses around this, just on the legal defense, as you said. Also, there's that $10,000 price tag affiliated with her green card
That's
status.
right. People thought, well, she got married. She's fine. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. It's
so,
still
and
very
then
difficult.
there's food to put on the table and rent to pay and gas back and forth and what have you. If there were one person in this community who deserves our support
That's right.
in a big way, it is certainly Pascal.
Absolutely.
Yes, independent media. Well, we'll jump tracks here
Okay.
from Ubinet and Pascal to NCTV, which is a local public access TV station here in Nevada County, California, that has amazingly hung on by the skin of its teeth through this turmoil and that thing and having to move and one thing and another, and oh my God, we could just go on for days. We won't. The good news is we came that close.
Yeah. That was crazy.
That close just a couple of months ago. And within, again, the uprising of community members.
Speaking out.
Speaking out.
In force.
One in particular who said, we cannot lose this. That would be Dan Holler, who really spearheaded and rose to the occasion to sort of coalesce the group of concerned members and producers and community members to create a way to keep this going. It's under new leadership. The business model is going to be revamped. We'll be moving to a location that's more affordable and actually more accessible by our community. It's a little hard for people to get to where we are currently located. So huge things are going on with that. That is another independent media source that is critical. I mean, I am fortunate to be able to be doing these last few Fuki Cafes here in the studio with a fabulous crew. I will do them out on location. I've done several out on location. So Fuki Cafe won't go away just because the studio goes away. But there are so many people who could not produce TV unless they had that structure and framework and a hand to hold, through the process, because they don't know how to produce TV. But anybody can walk through the doors of NCTV and say, hey, I want to produce a show on how to wash my dog. And maybe it's somebody who's 72 and she's got a vision for teaching people how to wash a small dog at home safely.
That's right. And it was in 2010 that I was a member, $35 I think at the time, NCTV member, and I was on my way to Zuccotti Park to occupy for 8 days in New York, and I went to you guys and said, hey, I'm going, and you're like, well, here, you just completely lined me up with several cameras,
and I think
batteries.
we were digging around in drawers, as I recall, to find some extra batteries that fit those cameras.
Did, and it was phenomenal. The footage I got was amazing, and in fact, I'm finally utilizing it this year. This winter, I'm putting in the documentary, and that'll be some pieces and excerpts from that. But the fact that that was available to me, that would have cost me hundreds of dollars just to purchase the equipment, which I didn't have.
Right.
And to come back and to be able to, kind of show some of the pieces here on, NCTV was also wonderful. So, no, it's again, where else are we going to get that kind of information? It's not available to us. And when I look at what social media allows for us, it's amazing. It's an incredible platform. Same thing with NCTV. Same thing with our KVMR radio station. Same thing with Ubinet. And we have these independent news sources that we're extraordinarily lucky. And I think that's one reason why our citizenry is so up on information and what's going on is because we have it available. It's right there for us. And again, watching us almost have the rug pulled out for under NCTV at the same time. Then a few weeks later, Pascal. It made us all kind of go. Ugh,
It did indeed.
It made us uncomfortable.
It did indeed, and it also brings up the point of which NCTV is very good at, and will continue to get better at, and that is training community members to function as citizen journalists.
Right.
And we don't replace a Pascal or you have a show on KVMR and also a show here at NCTV. We just don't replace people like you and Pascal, but we can train upcoming journalists.
That's right. Just expanding,
to
exactly.
expand
That's
it,
right.
and they can go. People who aren't in the biz often are the ones who are like right there at the scene, like when that RV blew up underneath our overpass the other day, spontaneous combustion that was like astonishing. There are people right there with their iPhones or what have
Most
you.
powerful thing you can do right now. I really is getting your phone out there, saying we're watching you, we're paying attention.
Right, and then posting that up on the net and et cetera. Well, in the interest of really driving the point home about the importance of independent media, I have a dear friend who is also actually one of the camera persons on the show here today, who was recently, about 2 weeks ago, in New York.
That's right.
And at the International Women, Earth, and Climate Initiative Summit. She was there to do interviews with, I think, 65 of the 100 presenters.
Amazing.
Just astonishing. I haven't seen any of the raw footage
I
yet.
haven't either, but I've been reading up on it, and it looked astounding.
Well, it sounds astounding.
Yeah.
And she was kind enough to provide us with a clip of Amy Goodman that she interviewed while she was there, who absolutely is, talk about independent journalist.
The
I mean, Amy Goodman is...
She opened many of our eyes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, she was the eye-opener for a lot of us.
Absolutely. So we're gonna go ahead and just take a listen to the clip that was provided by Tara Nisa, an independent filmmaker, from the International Women, Earth, and Climate Initiative Summit of 2013. Let's take a look at that.
There are so many women who are part of organizations. Those organizations are not showcased in the media. I see the media as a critical part of these whole movements for progress in the United States and around the world. Because when you have people speaking out about what they're doing, if those voices aren't amplified, it's very hard, especially for the most disenfranchised in other places. There are many people doing very important things, but they have to hear about them. And that's why the media plays such a critical part. It's not just doing the work, it's letting people know about that work so they can replicate it. We need an independent media.
Well, Renette, there you go, out of the mouth of Amy Goodman, the importance of independent media and the importance of being willing. I mean, this show that we're doing right now originally had a completely different concept design. And when I heard about Pascal's arrest, I went, oh my goodness, I'm doing a different show.
Right. I was going to come here and talk with you about Fukushima, so we kind of changed course. But it's equally important. I mean, it's incredibly important.
But the ability to quickly be able to shift for what is happening in the moment.
To adapt.
To adapt. And so often things come upon us quite suddenly, and we didn't see them coming, like Pascal on her situation. But we know that there are issues out there that need to be addressed that are already crises, but they're not the crises like in our face, as Pascal being yanked away was. How can we, as a community, become a little bit more proactive with our activism around certain issues so that we can have these kinds of positive outcomes that you and the rest of the gang out there, myself included in my small way, of putting that pressure on and affecting change. So it takes sitting back and really, as you say, here are the two talking points, but how do you get that community to get onto the same page, to create those talking points on this issue, this issue? I mean, you have done so much in this community around homelessness. That one thing alone, and that was a great rallying of the community. So we have crisis coming down the pike. How do you see us as a community effectively getting more proactive?
Well, amazing. First of all, the shift in the conversation in the American public is amazing as far as 90% of Americans were against war with Syria. 90%. I mean, let's start a movement now. Okay, so we're seeing that. The NSA spying. I don't know too many people who are happy about that. The drones. I mean, we are now more on a common page than we've ever been before. And so the Trans-Pacific Partnership, most people do not know about it. Please, if you don't, look up Trans-Pacific Partnership. Extraordinarily threatening to our democracy, our local laws, our state and federal laws. And so I think what we need to do is, first of all, understand that we're all in the same boat.
Yes.
We're all in the same boat.
As Mike Rupert says, it's all 7 billion of us.
It is all 7 billion of us.
We're on the same little spaceship here called
That's right.
Earth.
You know, and people were saying, well, you know, like with Pascal, like, well, she's a criminal, she's a felon, she needs to go back home. It's like, no, actually, the way our law books are probably this thick, and because of that, there's even a book called 3 Felonies, How the Feds Target the Innocent, and it's about how we're all committing 3 felonies a day. So the average American, because there's so many laws now in the books. So you can easily be plucked. So it's like, look at you guys, we're all at risk here. And we're all in the same boat, and we're all going to have the same future, no matter what, you know, you do or don't do. And so one of the things that I've been really working on a very local front is just getting to know the people around me, getting to know their names, really getting a kind of a pulse on what's going on and building the trust.
Yes.
You know, I'm really building the trust. And I do believe ultimately what I'd like to do on a local level is I've seen since in Nevada City, we had lost our town square to our Highway 49 in '69. And since then, we've been siloed into committees, churches, organizations, councils, boards.
It's separated.
We've been separated.
Yes.
We've been completely, the divide and conquer happened. And we never have this common area where we can come together just as me and Ivy, Renette and I, you know, face to face, not I'm an executive director and you're a council person, or I'm the president and you're not.
So a neutral commons area.
Creating a space where we can just come together and get to know one another as human beings.
Yes.
Because we're human beings.
Yes.
And, you know, and then understand too, for me, you know, I was really get frustrated in what I was seeing in Nevada City when I was on the council with the homelessness, the marginalized living, you know, and people ignoring what's going on to those without homes or without a car or without food or without a home. And, you know, I figured one of the best things I could do is, you know, start walking the example and living and breathing example. Seeing litter, I'll pick it up. I don't like something, I'll speak out. Something's happening, I'll show my camera, I'm photographing you. I'm videotaping you. I'm paying attention. I'm looking and watching you. And just being really active and involved everywhere around me.
Everywhere we go,
Yeah,
having more awareness.
Yeah, and-
well, you know what? We could talk about this for a long time.
Yeah, we could.
And in fact, we want to as a community.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today on Fuki Cafe. Renette, thank you for being here. I'm going to roll some URLs that could be of use to you out there. Please support Ubinet. Support NCTV. We've got a telethon this Saturday, the 19th. Come out, be part of it. And until next time, I'm Ivy Cohn. Thanks for watching.
There must have been a point at the very beginning where we could have said no.
Seventh-day Adventist Church, Grass Valley, provider of Amazing Facts religious weekend programming, located at 12889 Osborne Hill Road in Grass Valley.